I'm Nancy Williams. I am co-president of the League of Voters of Hilton Head Island and Bluffton area. My co-president, Dot Law, is here as well. Here she is. And on both our behalves, I'd like to welcome you to the first of a series of candidate forums that the League of Voters is sponsoring. And this evening's forum will feature the South of the Broad candidates who are running for Beaufort County Council. As many of you know, the League of Women Voters has a long history of sponsoring and moderating candidate forums, both nationally and locally, to encourage informed and active participation in our government and our elections. The League is a nonpartisan organization. We neither support nor oppose a political party nor political candidates. Each of you received, when you came in, a sheet that has important information on it. I know you can read, but I do want to review this with you. This forum is not a debate. Rather, the intent of the forum is to allow each candidate to present his or her views to you on a range of issues. Our moderator and our timekeeper will ensure that all candidates are treated with respect and fairness. Similarly, we ask you, our audience, to also maintain an environment of respect and impartiality so that all audience members can hear the candidates' responses and so that we can allow most time possible for questions and answers from the candidates. We ask that you not hold up any signs, banners, or any other items, and that you not applaud or in other ways demonstrate your support or non-support for a candidate. And I thank you in advance for abiding by these requests. Also, after our moderator has posed league-generated questions to the candidates, audience members will have an opportunity to pose questions to candidates by presenting their written questions on index cards, which we have distributed by league members. We ask that you limit your questions to one per card, and that you indicate the topic of your question in the upper right-hand corner. Any questions must be addressed to all candidates. League members then will screen the questions to avoid duplication and to ensure civility and relevance. Due to time constraints, not all questions can be answered. You'll notice that this forum is being streamed and transmitted live on our county channel. We thank them for being here. Additional information about all of our candidates here this evening, as well as those candidates who will appear on your ballot in November, as well as information about future forums, can be found on our League election online guide, vote411.org. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this evening's forum. Our moderator is Loretta Warden. Loretta is a past president of the League of Women Voters, and she has a long history of civic involvement in our community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, and a warm welcome to our audience this evening and to the 8 candidates for the Beaufort County Council. These candidates all reside in southern Beaufort County. On my immediate right, Mr. Stu Robin and Mr. Joseph Passman are candidates running for seats in District 11 and 6, and they are running unopposed. Seated at the table are contested candidates for Districts 8, 9, and 10. The candidates have drawn lots for the order of their opening statements of qualifications and motivation. And let's begin. Speaking first this evening is Mark McGinnis from District 9. Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark McGinnis. As you said, I'm a candidate for Beaufort County Council District 9, which is the southern end of Beaufort County, the Riverside, Bluff, Old Town Bluffton, Allenwood, Fusky Island. I've lived my adult life in service to others. As a Christian, I believe that it's my responsibility to love and respect all people, regardless of whether they look like me, live like me, or believe like me. And so, and I should also help those who need and serve others. So, as I've served as a Sunday school teacher, a youth leader, and I belong to a group at my present church which does community service throughout the community, doing charity works. I also have been a sports coach while my children were growing up, and I have also been a Boy Scout leader. I'm also a retired Air Force veteran with 22 years of service. I served in Afghanistan, and I was also we outside the Navy in Beaufort. As far as my professional career, I'm currently employed with Beaufort Aerospace, and I'm an engineering group head. So I know how to be a team player and a team leader, and I've shown that success throughout my career. I know how to analyze problems, I know how to solve problems, and I think those skills will serve me very well as county council representative. Another thing that my wife and I have done as part of the service is we adopted 2 children from China, even though we already had 5 children. So we do these things all the time to find people in need and to serve them. Now I want to serve you as a county council representative. I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second speaker is Lawrence McKellen from District Number 10.
Good evening, everyone. My thanks to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this, and thank you for coming. My name is Larry McKellen. I've lived here on Hilton Head at Hinsboro Run for the past 20 years. I'm originally, you probably can't tell from my accent, I'm originally from New York City. I'm born and raised here. I come from a pretty large family. My father was a United States Marine from 1935 to 1945. Met my mother during the war in Australia, and then came back to New York where they raised a family of 8 children. So I have lived with a Marine for quite a long time. If any of you have done that, you know what they stress is service, integrity, and self-reliance. I think all of my family has developed those traits. I was a teacher in New York City before as soon as I got out of college. And then after 2 years doing that, I decided to join the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, where I was a special agent for 30 years. I thought that it would probably be a lot safer to transfer to DEA and continue to teach in New York City schools. My brother was a United States Marine. I have another brother who's a New York City policeman. I have another brother who's a New York fireman, and another brother who's a priest. I have other brothers and sisters, but we don't really acknowledge them because they all went into the private sector. At Thanksgiving, we give them a very small table in the living room where they can all sit together. During my 30 years with DEA, I traveled around the world involved in global drug investigations. After I retired and came here in 1999, I was very active in community service on the Boys and Girls Club board. I was a founding member of the Beaufort County Drug Court, and I was on the Greater Island Council. The last 10 years, I served as a judge on the magistrate court, and for the last 5 years, I was chief magistrate for Beaufort County. I think that my background and my experience managing people, programs, and budgets for 40 years are very important, and I hope that you will allow me to serve as your voice on County Council. Thank you very much.
Our third speaker from District Number 9, Mark Lawson. May I remind all of you to be sure to hold that mic a little closer than normal to your mouth so that we're sure the audience, even in the back, can hear you.
Good. Thank you, and I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening, and I appreciate the invitation to be here. My name is Mark Lawson, and I'm actually from District 9 in Bluffton, and Mark also had done a great job of describing where it is. We've probably got the most diverse district that's out there. We went from DeFusky, Plymouth, Bluffton, to Riverside, as well as the Old Town Bluffton, All Joy. So, and then down Simmonsville Road and Buck Island. So I represent a very diverse group of people. And it's actually what I enjoy the most, is having a diverse group of folks, because again, that's what I love so much about Bluffton, where I'm from. I've been in the area now for 28 years, lived here longer than I've lived any place else. Lived at Hilton Head first, moved to Bluffton in 1996, whenever there was one elementary school out there. Now I think there are 12 schools, and all 3 of my kids and my own kids, and I've got an adopted son as well, that have gone to the schools out in Bluffton, and all kids have gone to the public schools, which we've been a big supporter of the public schools that are out there. My biggest passion in the past has been building the youth sports program out in Bluffton Youth Sports, which we grew from a small number of a couple hundred people, a couple hundred kids, to now over 800 kids. I was a board member and president of that league for a long time. I represented all the kids in Bluffton and having that grow, and that's where I spent most of my time also coaching and helping those kids. So for me, people say, why do you want to run? And I run because I care. Same reason why I volunteered for my church and was a deacon and elder at the church I go to. Same reason that I helped my wife with her being on the Zonta board. Same reason that I've done the sports and looked after kids and brought kids home. And so again, something that for me, I'm here because I want to serve. I'm here because I care. I'm here because I've lived here as long as I have. And I want to see us grow, and I want to see us protect what we've got.
Our next speaker will be Stu Rodman, District 11.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be with you this evening. As I look out, I see a lot of friendly faces, and you know, I want to thank you. It's been my pleasure and high honor to actually represent you on the island for now going on 14 years, including 2 years on the school board. Running unopposed, I'm not going to tell you what I would do, and it's not my nature to tell you what I have done, so I'll be brief. But the way I looked at council when I first went on was that many of the things that the county deals with don't affect Hilton Head very much, but we were highly affected by financial issues. And so coming out of about a 40-year career in financially related things, I basically focused on the financial side of things. And we have a very sound financial setup in the county. And I think overall we've done a pretty good job of holding the line on taxes, particularly on the county side. We also have to do the school board budget. That goes up a little bit, mostly driven by mandates that we get from Columbia. So anyway, I look forward to your questions. Hopefully you got a couple tough ones for us. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Brenda Brandt, District 8.
Hello, my name is Brenda Brandt, and I'm a candidate for the District 8 Beaufort County Council seat, and want to tell you a little bit about me and why I'm running. Like many of you, I'm not from here. I had rather an interesting upbringing. My father was a petroleum engineer, so by the time I was 12, I had lived in 5 countries and 4 states. I've since added 6 more states to that through my career. But in 1987, I had the opportunity to move here to Hilton Head Island, and I fell in love with it instantly. I worked in the resort, hospitality, and retail industries then as a young adult. I attended the University of South Carolina here on Hilton Head Island. They had a campus then, and in Beaufort, and then moved to Columbia, where I worked at the university and completed my degree in psychology. My career in human resources, which was really where I felt I could best contribute with a psychology degree, has taken me all over the United States working for global companies. When I got a chance to come back here in the end of 2015, I realized that I wanted to contribute more to the community. I wanted to give back. To me, local government is public service, and we are stronger when we have a diverse and vast amount of people who are interested in bringing their ideas and perspectives into that government. So I am looking forward to sharing more with you about what I would do as a council person.
Thank you. Our next candidate to speak will be Chris Hervishon, District 8 as well.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chris Hervishon. I am the GOP candidate for County Council to represent District Number 8. District Number 8 is the area from Hilton Head Plantation to Beaufort on the north side of 278, as well as Windmill Harbor. I live in Moss Creek with my wife and 3 kids, Henry, who is 5, and John Sullivan, who are almost 3-year-old twins, which is hard to believe. We've got a nice variety. We've got the boys and the girls, so I think we're good now. So why am I running? Well, I'm running because I think, apart from Stu, we have been underrepresented as far as who's in elementary school now, who just started kindergarten, and I've got 2 more coming shortly behind. I just started a business here, and the trajectory of Beaufort County is very important to me. I want Beaufort County to be as awesome in 100 years as it is today, and certainly as awesome as I remember it from my childhood. So thank you to the League of Women Voters for having us, and looking forward to the forum.
Joseph Passman, District 6, is our next speaker.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Passament. As she said, I'm going to be representing District 6 if I get elected. Well, yeah, I should be able to get elected because I'm running unopposed. Most people don't know my last name. They say, Joe, unopposed? I want to serve the community. District 6 is also a very diverse community. It consists of Oldfield, Riverbend section of Sun City, the Beaufort County section of Sun City, Berkeley Hall, Eagles Point, and Mill Creek. Diverse population. We want to do great things. I want to do great things. I want to work with the council to make the quality of life that we have here better, the quality of our communities the best we possibly can. I have served on several committees since I've been here. I currently am on the Zoning Board of Appeals for the county. I serve in the capacity as the finance chair in Sun City for Sun City. I've served as the vice chair. I will be giving those up when I go to county council. I'm on various clubs and organizations. My career has been in education. I served as a teacher, an administrator, an executive county business official, and an executive county superintendent. So I think I'm going to bring a wide variety of views to the county council that I hope will be necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final candidate, introductory remark, will be from Kathy McClellan, District 8.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you, the League of Women Voters, for sponsoring this event and for all the wonderful work you do in the community. But it's very humbling to go last and have to listen to everybody else's resumes, so I'm not sure what mine is going to sound like, but I can tell you, like everyone else, why I'm running. And one of the reasons is, of course, I care about people. But, you know, even though this is kind of a challenging journey, I feel like being an elected official, I can make the greatest difference in people's lives. And that's why I've chosen to do this and to serve. Who am I? Well, I'm an attorney for over 28 years. I am a trained mediator and facilitator. I was a team builder, had a lot of dispute resolution skills, was recognized as a dispute resolution professional and civil rights professional in the federal government before I retired. I'm a former administrative law judge, and I'm also a former adjunct faculty member from the University of Baltimore School of Law, where I taught mediation skills for 10 years to law students, so you can imagine what that was like. So in the past few months, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that I've been going door to door and hearing what people are saying. And I'm hearing that people feel, in a lot of places, that they're underrepresented, that their voices are not being heard, and they are concerned about, you know, the lack of public transportation, available public transportation. A lot of them have talked about affordable housing and workforce housing, and also talked about the fact that, you know, we need stormwater management. The other thing is the Native Islander community. I've talked to them, and they, you know, we really need to start promoting, you know, the Native Islanders and the Mitchellville and other projects and make this a historic destination. I want to thank you for listening to me tonight, and I hope that now that we have a choice, and I know we have it for a couple of election cycles, that I will be your choice in District 10. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidates. We will now move to questions. First, the questions that have been developed by the League, followed by questions from the audience. Recognizing that different questions require different response times, do be aware that the maximum time allowed by our timekeeper for the League questions will be 2 minutes. We hope that they will be brief and to the point, so that we will have time for a number of questions this evening. I will vary the order of first responders to the questions, and you will then follow in seated order. Let's begin. We'll begin with Brenda, and our first lead question is, what is your perception of the difficulties in hiring for the county administrator position, and what proposals do you suggest for resolution? Brenda.
I think I got a good question being a human resources professional. I've spent a lot of my career recruiting. I think it is challenging to recruit candidates for administrator positions. I am not sure how broadly we have reached as a council to identify candidates, but I think that's the highest priority, making sure that we get our job posting out to as many places as we can. There are professional organizations, there are county and city administrator type of organizations. And then the other thing is making sure we have a very good vetting process. And it's actually a two-way process. It's us assessing the candidate for a fit, and it's the candidate seeing if this is a place that they want to work and serve. I think that we should all participate in that interviewing process because we need to be invested in that. That person is really going to be the key individual that helps us execute the things we need to do in the county. Unfortunately, there has been, I think, a process that didn't work well already, so the perception may be that we are not competent to do that. I think we are waiting until the new council comes into office to do that next step of the process. We have an interim person now, but I am myself committed, if I'm elected, to making sure that we get the best candidate possible to bring on board to help us lead Beaufort County into the future.
Mr. Overshaw, District 8.
This is a great question, really. So, first thing I would say is we've gone through 2 rounds of searches for a county administrator. Both have failed. We have spent a lot of money doing it. And given how close we are to election, how close we are to year end, my hope would be that the current council would push the decision to us. Right? We're going to have so much turnover. I think at this point it's appropriate that we're able to fill that void. As far as the type of candidate that we should look for, I think we should look for somebody who has great interpersonal skills. There are certainly a lot of different personalities on council that they're going to have to deal with. There is a very broad range of skills and topics that need to be covered within the county. So somebody who is experienced, I think, would be helpful. And then finally, what I'll say is, I think we pigeonholed ourselves a little bit with the last search when we said we had to require a master's degree. My opinion is a master's degree would be great, but today's day and age, if you've got the skill set, if you've got the experience, maybe we could be a little bit more lenient on that. Maybe all over a bigger pool, bigger talent pool we could choose from.
District 9, Mr. Lawson.
Well, I'd like to thank the council that's currently in place because I think they've made the right decision so far by not making a decision. I would have rather had them stop like they did than to pick the wrong person. So again, that's one thing that again, I see that happening even when we get into this process. And I think that what should have happening now is the fact that Mr. Gruber was on the last search. And whenever you have an existing deputy administrator that's in the county, nobody else wants to apply for that job because they think that you're just going to give it to the deputy administrator. So by having Mr. Gruber in that search before, I think it actually kept us from getting a lot of good candidates. So now by not having Mr. Gruber in there, people know that they will be able to come here and they're not going to be second fiddle next to an existing employee. I think that you'll see that we'll get a better array of people. We'll get people with experience. We'll get people that are coming from large counties like we have already. I think that you have much more opportunity to pick the right person. And again, as far as I know, that it will be left up to the next council to do that, which again I think is the right thing to do.
Mr. McGinnis, District 9.
I think the other candidates so far have made some very good points. You have to have a good vetting process, and you have to have a good job description from the start. You can't make the requirements so extensive and exclusive that you actually good candidates. I understand that from a standpoint of having been a hiring manager in my career, that you have to write the job description correctly. You have to do some advertising. You have to go out and seek those candidates. Maybe make personal contacts with candidates that you see as a good fit for the position. And as Brenda brought out, that you have to find somebody, have to purposely and intentionally seek out candidates who you feel are a good fit for the county, and this will be a good fit for them. I don't think the salary was ever an issue. I think what Mark said about Mr. Ruger being a detractor is probably true as well. So again, good job description, advertise, seek out, and be intentional in what you're doing, and I think you can find the best candidate.
Ms. McClellan, District 10.
So I guess one of the benefits of going next to last is that a lot of good things have already been said. At this point, I can tell you that I was actually at the county council meeting when the vote was taken. I actually met the two final candidates that they voted on that night, and that they have recruited in the second round of interviews. The thing that I want to add to all of this, and there's nothing that I really don't agree with, is that I really think we need to have a much more diverse pool of applicants. The two final applicants were older white males, and I'm just going to be honest, we really need some diversity, and there was none at all. And I wondered why we didn't go out and get to recruit some people who could actually, bring some diverse and different ideas to the table. And so what I hope that when we do this, and I hope they will wait until the new council, and I think at this point that is probably going to happen. I hope that they are going to go out and recruit, people from very diverse backgrounds and take a look at different types of people who might be able to bring a different perspective to the council, because it's a very, very key and important position. And so I really hope that is how they will proceed, and that the job description will bring in the types of candidates that will be the most effective as the new county administrator.
Mr. McMillan,
Yep.
District 10.
Thank you. I think it's very important that the first step to engage the services of a tested and professional search team to get the widest variety of people that we can who express an interest in the position. Secondly, I think we would have to be very clear with regard to what the job description is. The county administrator is actually the only employee of county council. Every other of the hundreds of employees in the county are actually county employees. So the administrator actually reports to the county council. The county council is actually that person's boss. I think we have to establish realistic credentials. I think Chris mentioned that a master's degree may be too much. These days, people's experience sometimes counts more than a degree that you received 20 or 25 years ago. And I think that that's a valid thing to say, and I think that the experience has to be weighted perhaps more than education. We have to vet the candidates very carefully and make sure that they are qualified and meet all of the requirements that are mentioned in the job description, and that their credentials are validated. And I think that it's very important for council to defer this decision to the next group of people that come in, because they will be the members of council that will have to live with this administrator going forward. Thank you very much.
Mr. Passanant, District 6.
Yes, everything has been said that's needed. We talked about, first, it's the new council that should be doing this selection process. Why? Because as it was said, this employee reports directly to the county council. Therefore, the next county council should be the one hiring this candidate. It is essential that the person has some expertise in the job. That will be based upon the job description that's written. It's also very important that we hire a search firm to get the best qualified candidates and have the pool as large as we can. So everything that we have said here tonight is what we need to do.
Mr. Rodman, District 11.
Yeah, this process we went through was certainly not our finest hour, and I do believe that the council will wait until the new council is seated to take it up. And I think there'll probably be two options on the table. One is to go into a search process that people have described. It'll be a bit difficult because having had two failed processes, sometimes it's difficult to attract people. The other option is to hire a temporary for some period of time. Interestingly, if you look at the Board of Education as a regular pattern, they almost always hire a temporary for about a year as when they're putting together hiring a new superintendent. I don't know which path we'll go down, but we'll see. But it's going to be a tough process. And what really happened was the council was almost split right down the middle between the candidates. And so it was very difficult to get a consensus, and some of us believe that we really should have had a supermajority consensus, but we just never got there. So I almost need to apologize to you for the bad job we did.
The second late question this evening. A local question will be on the ballot for all of our Beaufort County voters this year. It asks for approval of a special transportation sales and use tax of 1% to be imposed for not more than 4 years, or a total of $120 million in revenue. Revenue would be used for specific projects, such as the US 278 corridor traffic improvements, Moss Creek to Squire Cove Road, traffic improvements between Woods Memorial Bridge and Showering Creek Bridge, and sidewalks and multi-use pathways to support safe routes to schools throughout all of Beaufort County. What is your position on the 1% sales and use tax question? And we'll start this time with Mr. Herbishaw.
So generally, I'm a CPA and I hate taxes. So that said, I think in this instance, the transportation sales tax is a good thing for a couple reasons. Number one, it's for specific projects. So it's not just some slush fund that we can go and spend willy-nilly. Two, because it's the cheapest money that we can get. In other words, sales taxes, a good chunk of, are paid for by folks who don't live here, when they're on vacation. They spend their money here. Secondly, the bridges that Hilton had are crucial. They're deteriorating, they're in bad shape, everybody knows that. We've got to fix them. We can't let it turn into a much broader issue than it already is. But Hilton has essentially the lifeblood of the county, right? Generates roughly 50% of the revenue for the county. We can't have anything bad happen to those bridges, obviously. So for those reasons, I'm in support of the referendum.
Okay, great. You make me follow the CPA on the tax question. I agree. I'm actually 100% behind it. I think it's something that we have no choice but to do. We've got to protect our infrastructure, which means we got to spend money. And that doesn't stop at the bridges, which again, that's what's next is the bridges from Hilton Head, plus also what's happening over in Ladies Island, which remain a part of it. We have to look at what our long-term plan is, what we're looking at doing, because this is a great place, and we're not going to stop people from coming. People are still coming, they're going to continue to come. So for us, it's looking ahead to what will be next, even after what is going to happen with the referendum, and the plan to look for ways that we can keep traffic down, which can be probably one of the things that would make Hilton Head and Bluffton come to a screeching halt when it comes to our quality of life that we have out there. So again, 100% behind it, something that we need to do, and again, we need to start thinking about other things for our county, other places, and what's next.
been given some time to get that fixed, but we must fix it sooner or later. Also, as they've mentioned, Hilton Head Island is the lifeblood of the economy in this area. We have a great product here. We have a beautiful place to live, and really what we have to do is take care of it. And we have to do these things intentionally. So taking care of the bridge and widening the corridor, very important things. And also, we as residents, we would only feel a small portion of that referendum, as the visitors, the tourists, would be paying a very large part of that as they spend their dollars here. So it just makes perfect sense to me, and also that these are specific items that it's intended to be spent for. So it's a no-brainer to me. It's a very, very good referendum in my opinion.
Again, I agree with everything that was said, but I also want to add a few things. Number one, if we don't pass the transportation sales tax, and I agree that we need to, we will not get our state matching and federal funds, matching funds, because we have to put up a certain amount of money in order to get those funds. So, we need to do that. 80 million of the 120 million that is collected is going to come to Hilton Head. And also, if and you know, we're talking about the bridge, and I've seen some pictures of the bridge and some areas where it's deteriorating, and if the bridge just needs to be fixed, if we don't raise the money, we don't get our matching funds, what's going to happen is SCDOT is going to come in and they're going to do what they want to do with the bridges. So, what we need to do is have a say in it. We'll be able to help build a new bridge that may have bike paths and walking paths over it. We could have, we could switch lanes at high traffic areas. We could do all the things. We could design this ourselves, and we could have a say on what it looks like. And I think that's incredibly important. If we don't pass it, the likelihood of us having that kind of say and that kind of input into what is going to happen with this money and what is going to happen with the bridge is unlikely. So for all those reasons, and for the fact that it will run out once we raise $120 million, it'll run out for 4 years, whichever comes first. So I really think this is a really good thing for Hilton Head and for the entire town. Thank you.
Thanks. I think that you must take the long view here. Growth here is inevitable. The key to it is to have smart, managed growth. I think that it's very important for us to consider and support this referendum because we need to improve our roads and bridges and all of the infrastructure that provides access to and egress from this island. There are a great many things that we can do in addition to passing the referendum to make sure that the traffic situation eases somewhat. And that involves reversing lanes, perhaps creating additional lanes, coordinating the traffic lights a lot better. We need to consider off-island parking and carpooling. We need to have much better and improved public transportation, and we need to have better intra-island transportation as well. But all of this will come after we have rebuilt the bridges and the roads. That's the number one priority and something that we cannot afford not to do.
I agree with everything that has been said, and I'm going to add one more thing. This is the first step in doing the transportation needs of this county. The second step is working with our state representatives to ensure that the dollars that come out of the DOT and the SIB are given a fair amount to Beaufort County that we should have, and that they are not diverted to other areas of the state. With that in mind, we can solve the transportation issues. This is the first step. I am absolutely in support of this as a way of improving the quality for transportation needs that we have in the short term. The long term is to work with our state officials to get our fair share of the funds that the state has for transportation needs.
Just to amplify on a couple of the comments that were made when we put this thing together, I guess 15 months ago, we're kind of at a fork in the road. and many of the candidates have talked about this, if we don't pass it, then basically DOT is going to show up someday and put a bridge in, and we have no control over what it looks like or anything else. What's actually happened through this process, and I give a lot of credit to Mayor Bennett on this, is gone through a process of really engaging the community, figuring out what we need, looking beyond the bridges to the whole corridor, and looking at it as the gateway here. So bike paths and those kinds of things that you see come along. So I do think we need to pass it. Also, I think the transportation sales taxes are the one place that we probably need to continue to tax ourselves, because it's the place we're most vulnerable to getting money from the state of South Carolina. They just don't have a lot of money for roads. And if you really want to look out about 3 or 4 years, probably the next batch that would probably take place, given the growth in Bluffton, would be in the area of along 170, 278, in that area, and then to balance it politically, probably spending some money around the Seapine Circle to resolve that particular congestion. But we do need to pass it, and hopefully we will. Thank you.
So like everyone else, I agree. I am in support of the sales tax referendum. I do want to mention also, I think good points here, that we are in control of this plan if we do participate. This is a great example of the town of Hilton Head and the Beaufort County government being aligned on this and agreement of wanting to be able to have input into what we're doing with the bridge. The things like traffic that we can solve, the state may not. If they just come in to fix the structural issues of the bridge, that will be the focus. We won't have the opportunity to look at the bike paths and the crosswalks and the other things that will make our community a better place for residents.
Our next question. Continuing economic development and resident needs will require a sufficient workforce. What ideas for housing, transportation, education, wages should County Council explore to assure the necessary workforce? And Mark, you start.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about affordable housing, and I want to first say that low-income housing and workforce housing are two different things. And so again, each of those will be handled in a different way. Affordable housing, you've actually got some very successful affordable housing programs out in Hardy Jenny Green, as well as Deerfield. The city of Beaufort also has a Beaufort housing authority that has low-income housing. So again, those are in place, they're out there, there are plans for those, they can be followed, and it's something you've got. When it comes to workforce housing, that is what most people think about affordable housing. It's not. Workforce housing is actually having something that's affordable that policemen, firemen, teachers, nurses can come to our community and be here and have something that they can afford and live in our community. That is all based upon supply and demand. Supply and demand, to get a lower price on homes or on condos means you have to increase density to get that lower price. I am not for, unless it's a special case, an exception, for increasing density. I think that we've done a good job of taking our county and making sure that we've got places. In Bluffton, you've got 2 brand new apartment complexes. With that supply, that should then help to lower the cost of rent. So again, it's a supply and demand issue. The biggest thing you've got is that when you look at where would this go, and we've seen that happen here recently, where people have been opposed to having a apartment complex, a extended living place at their front entrance. So again, those are things that we have to look at, make sure we know what's going on. By increasing the number of units in the area, I think that over time, with the shortage that's occurred because of September, the housing market that crashed in 2008, that everything will be catching up, and you're going to see that there'll be more and more affordable houses in the future.
Sorry.
disagree slightly with Mark on some of his comments. I think some of the initiatives that have gone on and are going on in the other counties is a little bit simpler because there is more real estate and the cost of that real estate is lower than it is here. I think we have to be intentional in our perspective on what we do with affordable housing, workforce housing. I personally would be for more high-density housing of some more apartment complexes because that's what our workers need. We see here on Hilton Head that many places are having a hard time staying in business because of people can't afford to live here. They're having to bus in from other counties. Having housing in Jasper County or Hampton County is not an acceptable solution to me to the workforce housing and affordable housing issue. And affordable housing goes beyond just people who work in the hospitality industry, which of course is the lifeblood of the county. It goes to teachers. It goes to other people who have lower incomes. It goes to people who work in other industries. And so they, as a whole community perspective, it benefits everyone. It benefits the wealthy, and it benefits the middle class, and it benefits the poor. To consider everyone, respect everyone in the economy, to have places for people to live who work for those people who have no money. So I am all for higher density housing. We can possibly do some things with impact fees or zoning to influence people to want to build more high density housing in the area. And I think that's our responsibility as governors of our county.
So if I heard the question correctly, I think it also included transportation and some other issues. Could you repeat the question?
Yes, surely. I'm going to repeat the final question part of it. Would you suggest some expansion of efforts in the area of housing, transportation, education, wages? Should the county council explore?
And please speak up so we can hear it back. Yeah, you need to speak up.
That's a broad question, and first let me start with housing. There was the Bowen National Research and Affordable Housing Survey, very comprehensive, that was commissioned by the county. It has a number of suggestions, good suggestions, and we need to have a plan with benchmarks, goals, and objectives, and a long-term, with short and long-term objectives in that plan. Options to consider are using abandoned properties to develop workforce housing, encouraging large employer down payment assistance, changing the way the state allocates the low-income tax credits to incentivize affordable housing development, and forming public-private partnerships like the public-private affordable housing fund. In terms of transportation, not only the things we talked about with the bridge, the bike path and a walking path over the bridge, we need a trolley system for parking rides, and in Bluffton, we need to have a good, affordable public transportation that goes throughout the island, just not one bus coming in the morning and leaving at night that costs $9 that people can't afford. So we really need to look at that. We need to look at ferries for other parts of the county. So there's a number of options in the transportation area. As far as wages, maybe we need a wage study. Maybe we need to, the employers on the island, maybe we need to sit down with the chamber, talk to them about their employers who need to raise the wages if they're going to recruit and retain good employees. And I forgot what the last one.
This topic ties very clearly into the area of smart managed growth. Because you just can't talk about residential units, because residential units then you get commercial space, then you get public service space, and then public service space encroaches upon open lands. So you just really can't talk about building houses because it's all connected and you can't consider one of those things without the others. Smart managed growth has to occur by people who are in the business of managing growth. We have to deal with a group of people who can come in and provide us with a master plan and the county council can legislate ordinances to complement that kind of plan. When you're dealing with affordable housing, I think a distinction has to be made. People who will be living in affordable housing will be either buying the place or renting the place, but it may be below market because the people who build these buildings or homes will be getting benefits from the government with reduced impact fees or with some type of a subsidy. But the people who will be living there will be employed, they'll be receiving salaries, they'll be paying their taxes, they'll be paying Social Security, and they'll be fully vested members of the community. So it's important for us to think about bringing affordable housing in, realizing that the people who will be getting perhaps reduced below market pricing for land will be the people who build these things. And they're going to leave, and then other people will come in and live in those things that they've created. And I think it's an important thing we have to consider going forward, and how we can best manage that and assist those people to provide that for us, or else we are going to have a real problem with recruiting and retaining the people we need here in the workforce.
I'm going to take a bit of a different approach. I'm going to start with education, because education is the driving force to get better wages. Better wages will be more affordable housing. It all starts with education. We know that growth is coming. We haven't talked about the JASP report. When the JASP report becomes a reality, which should be in the next 5 years, we're going to need skilled individuals to build that port. Those are high-paying, skilled jobs. We have to have TCL have the programs available so that we have electricians, welders, carpenters, plumbers, all of those skilled trades that are necessary to build the port and maintain the port. That will allow individuals to want to come, who want to have those skills, who are willing to move to this area, and then we provide the housing for them. So it is a combination of a lot of factors that are going on, but it starts with education.
I'm not a believer in government getting involved in too much of this, although I do believe we should limit it heavily to tax incentives and relief on impact fees. What we're actually facing here on the island is the vast majority of the people, regardless of what we do, are still going to commute from the mainland. And so that's another reason why the transportation sales tax is extremely critical to get that done. Because there's been two impacts. One is it's getting harder and harder to get people, because if they live out in Jasper County, they're going to take a job in Bluffton if they can. And the net impact of all of that has been probably wages are rising at the rate of about $1 an hour. And so we're already paying for it in some form. Now, there may be some targets of opportunity where we do some things. For example, the school board has always complained about the difficulty of retaining young teachers. So we actually pushed them to, over the last couple of years, to put in a $5,000 supplement so that they can actually recruit and retrain and retain teachers. I think we have to be smart about how we go about it, and it's going to be an interesting challenge for council going forward, because there's a lot of diverse interest across the county on how we ought to do it, and there's no real clear path forward.
So, just like anybody else, when I have a job, I want to live near where I work. I want my kids, grandkids, to be able to go to school near where we live. So when you think about our workforce, a few data numbers that I find interesting. In July, unemployment in Beaufort County was 3.3%, national 4.1%, state of South Carolina 3.5%. So we are well under the state and we're well under national. Our largest employers, Beaufort County School District, the hospital healthcare system, also our resorts, bigger resorts, hospitality, our larger retailers. So those are all a lot service and professional jobs. That fuels our tourism industry and retirement industry. Many people also move here to retire. We must have a workforce that can and wants to do those jobs. They need to have access to good quality schools. They need to have access to good places to live. When I lived here in the 80s, most of the condos that are now short-term rentals, those were apartments. That's what we lived in. Bluffton started out to be small, affordable patio home type communities. That's where many of us moved to when we wanted to have a home. We need to think outside of the box. It's not always apartments. We have a lot of, I guess, buildings and office complexes here on the island that we could repurpose. And if we have some vision and imagination and input from the workforce, I think we can do things. But again, this workforce is going to go to Jasper County, other places. They won't commute when they have other choices. Definitely wages. I think County Council already has on their strategic plan that they look at 5 years, 15 years to do salary surveys to really understand where we are so we can help our business community decide whether it's worth their while to raise wages. But it's all interconnected. We have a great technical college and university here that we need to market better and really help people understand that they can get trained and skilled for the new jobs of the future.
So I'll try to handle these one by one. As far as transportation goes, I think we're adequately addressing the immediate needs with the referendum, that being bridges and those select projects. Mark alluded to it earlier, which is one thing we need to do is be more proactive as far as planning transportation needs. I think that's an absolute. Education. So we're running for county council, we're not running for school board. I think that's mostly the job of the school board with a few exceptions. Number one is county council approves the budget for the school board. I think it's time that perhaps we don't just check the box. Maybe we start to ask serious questions about where the budget is going and whether or not it's actually improving the education for our kids. As somebody who's got young kids in our school system, that's important to me. The other area that in education is TCL. I think we need to be looking at whether or not they're adequately funded and whether or not there's anything that we can do there. Wages and affordable housing. So this is something that I've got experience with, hiring folks, particularly accountants, and something that I've heard a lot about. Generally, when we're trying to hire accountants at my previous job, we get some feedback. One feedback would be, well, the housing prices are fine compared to where I'm coming from, but the POAs are too high. Or we would hear, well, your wages are too low. Now, in the latter instance, it would be my job to go back to HR and say, hey, look, this is a great person we have to pay. And that's an instance where government does not get involved. It's the job of the business. As far as affordable housing in general, I think that that's just not a government function. Where we can be impactful is with select deregulatory actions. A good example of that being the suburban lodge on 278, which was a extended stay. I think it was about $425 a week is what they were charging. And investor came in, bought it, brought it to clear, did a lot of work on it, but he had trouble with the county trying to get it through his apartments. I think we probably got to the right answer in allowing him to do that, but that's an instance where we can be impactful.
Now we're ready to move to some audience questions, and we will use the same format. We ask that the respondents confine themselves to 1.5 minutes for responses. And the first audience question: sea levels are rising at a faster rate than originally predicted. What should county council do, if anything, to mitigate risk to its low-lying areas? And we'll ask Mr. McGinnis to begin the response.
That does go into a lot of deeper issues which can be handled on a federal level, but at a county level, one of the things that we need to be concerned about is stormwater runoff. There are a lot of people who live near the water in these coastal areas that have trouble with their sewage. So we need to have good drainage systems, we, so that they don't get their sewage running out into their house during a rainstorm. So that's a very important initiative that we need to take a look at. Also, I was not prepared for that question, but I would say that if we were to have a significant issue with that, then we'd have to look at something like maybe some levies like they have done in some other cities. I don't think we're to the point where that would be a problem in the near future, but those would be the first couple of things that I would look at.
So what I think we need is a comprehensive stormwater management plan it's got to be for the whole region. And we work very closely with the town of Hilton Head on that and all of the other low-lying people, the other low country, the low-lying communities in Beaufort and Beaufort County. There's a number of things that can be done, like retrofitting wetlands, using resilience districts, which they did in New Orleans. So they had a number of ideas of what the Gentilly Resilience District, where there's a lot of green space that they're using to absorb the water. So there are a number of different options that we can use, but I think coming up with that plan and making sure that we are working together and in concert so that we can prevent what is supposed to happen in 8 years is that we're going to be underwater. And we won't be here, but our grandchildren, and they have children, if they have children, they will be here. So the bottom line is, we need to start working on this quickly, and it needs to be a priority, because it's imminent. This is imminent. Okay?
Yeah, it's not only imminent, it's inevitable. I think that what we'll have to do is model our reaction to this on other areas that have had some success dealing with the incursion of waters. One of the things that I'm very concerned about is the oversight of commercial properties and allowing people to build giant parking lots that have impervious surfaces, which then won't let the water drain through, but rather drain off. And then we get into the larger issue of stormwater management and the environmental impact that's having on our waterways. It's a serious issue, and I think that it's a serious responsibility for the council to provide the oversight that's necessary to ensure that the building that is taking place, when it does, is sensitive to the environmental issues, particularly as it relates to the runoff that's going to run along the waterways.
I agree with all of the things that have been said. Stormwater management is going to be a critical issue. We do have some stormwater management plans in place now. They have to be constantly reviewed and updated. We have to take a look at the areas that constantly flood and how do we mitigate that. I'm on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we have had people come before us where we have had to reject what they want to do because it would allow water runoff from their property to somebody else's property. So we have to be cognizant of what we do and how we do it. And so I do agree with what we want to do and how we want to do it right now.
One of the priorities this year for council and the municipalities have agreed is to actually look at a regional stormwater authority. And so we're in the process of going through that. And one of the things that several of us have insisted on, and I think everybody's pretty much in agreement, is we don't want it done by political boundaries, but we want to do it by what they call watersheds. Because that does two things for us. One, it would capture areas outside of Beaufort County, inside of Jasper County, where we're very concerned about whether their environmental standards are the same as ours. And secondly, Hilton Head would be its own watershed in a sense. And that's important because otherwise we'll be paying for everybody else because we do have a high tax base here. So I don't know what we're going to do about the sea rise.
I think everyone has covered a lot of the salient points on this. The sea levels are rising, but the other thing, when we talk about stormwater runoff, If you think about the hurricane damage that has been happening currently in North Carolina and South Carolina, it's all from floodwaters, most of it. And so those things have already impacted us over the past few years and will continue to. So I think this is an immediate priority to have these plans in place. I like that looking at a regional, partnering with municipalities. We cannot do this just in a vacuum, and we cannot do this at the county level if the municipalities are also working on plans that are aligned. So, I agree with everyone. This really is our lifeblood, right? Why we live on the coast, why people come to visit the coast, and we need to make sure that we do everything we can to protect the environment. But the real challenge of the water is one that we're facing today. It's not tomorrow, so we need to address it.
So I would say as far as the sea level rise, to me that feels more like a federal function, or at the very least regional. And to that extent, I'll echo what Steve said about the stormwater. I think it needs to be looked at on a regional basis, so I think the actions being taken right now are appropriate. In general, I think hyper-localized environmentalism is not a good thing, and it doesn't really get the job done. So I think looking at it on a regional basis is the appropriate way to go.
Larry Toomer from the Beaufort Company is a good friend of mine, and he said to me, Mark, I can't tell you if the sea is rising, but I can tell you that the tides have become more extreme from one side to the other side. He said, that I can tell you for sure from his years of living here and growing up. So we start talking about sea level rising, which I think is what the question was, is what do we do about that? And again, as Chris mentioned, it's going to be more of a federal issue to have the federal government involved. It has to be flood insurance. There might be a time whenever we look at any new structures being raised up. Right now we're looking at 14-foot elevation just to raise up to avoid those flood issues. But as we've seen with Beaufort, North Carolina, and all those floodwaters there, a lot of times it's not going to be the coast that we're worried about the storm. It's going to be the interior areas and where water's going to pile up and where it's going to take out roads. So it is something that seeing what happened in Harvey, seeing what happened in North Carolina just recently makes us realize that we need to have plans in place. We need to be able to say where we think it's going to rise, and today's technology with all the GPS and all the elevations we have, that's something that actually can be figured out where water's going to stop, where it's going to start, where it's going to pile out. So again, our biggest thing is to save human life when you have those storms like that. So it's something that is going to take time. We've got time, and we can start now to look at the issues and to take care of what needs to be done in the future.
Our next audience question: do you support the November referendum for rural and critical lands purchases? As perhaps background for the audience, there was a referendum question on the ballot this year, which asks whether or not we would approve Beaufort County issuing general obligation bonds not to exceed $25 million for the purpose of land preservation.
I absolutely support it. It will fund the rural critical lands for the foreseeable future. And the things that are funded by the rural critical lands have to do with, green space and things like the Mitchell Project. And, the Native Islander community develop things that, promoting that the historical areas, preserving those historical areas. All of that will be covered by rural critical lands. I absolutely believe that we need to do that because I believe that, the Native Islanders are the soul of this community, and we need to preserve their land, we need to preserve their history. Mitchellville needs to be funded as much as possible. I know we'll get private money for it, but I do absolutely believe that this is critical to maintaining our green space, having new green space, and preserving the culture, that unique culture of this beautiful island.
Yes, I do support the Open Lands Trust and the purchase of lands to prevent development. It's as I said before, you can't just consider one thing. When you consider residential units and then commercial growth, public service growth, and the encroachment on open lands, it's all related. So it's not healthy for us to just think about funding open lands and purchasing those. We have to consider our open lands use as we are considering whether or not we're going to improve residential growth, commercial building, and the expansion of our public service facilities for that residential and commercial growth. It's all tied together, it should not be isolated individually. Yes, I am a strong environmentalist, and I believe very strongly that this referendum should be successful.
Yes, I'm absolutely in favor of that. Again, it's a quality of life issue. It's preserving lands for future generations that would otherwise be commercially developed.
The way referendums in general work is when somebody wants to do one, it comes to council and council votes whether to put it on the ballot. And we've traditionally, over the last 20 years, continued to put the rural and critical lands on the ballot. And they've typically been approved probably by a 2-to-1 margin. So it's something that the people across the county really appreciate. We always get into some arguments about, well, are we taking stuff off of the tax rolls and therefore we're paying more? On the other hand, with the quality of life, do we get that back? But clearly the voters on this issue, probably more than any other, by a wide margin, continue to support it. So we'll probably continue to put it on the ballot.
I also am a strong supporter of the referendum, like everyone else has said very well, making sure that we're preserving the land that we can, not only for environmental purposes, but also for the historical preservation purposes. One of the things that I read recently, people that are touring, visiting, taking vacations, they're looking for places of historical and cultural significance to come to. So this is an excellent opportunity for us to really brand ourselves with a different identity too. And I think we recently made a purchase of the ferry right off the island, the building that used to be the restaurant. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name. That is, really a good thing that the county was able to do so that we can continue to have that ferry service to DeFusky. So there's also some pragmatic and practical purposes for this.
I do support the referendum. Basically what the referendum says is that we are allowed to spend money. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to, and we have to spend it in any sort of time frame. That said, I think we do need to be careful about what properties we do purchase. It goes to the rural and critical lands board, it goes up to council, each property. I think we need to be very careful about considering the recommendations from that board. I think in some instances, maybe those recommendations do get discounted and we purchase property that maybe we shouldn't have. But I don't think we should be purchasing property that we don't need to purchase. That's not actually rural or critical. And I don't think we should be overpaying for such properties.
I will also be voting yes, and I think I've voted for the past 20 years. Every time there's been a referendum, the past vote yes as well. I think it's actually something that we need and must have. We look at properties that were saved, a lot of them are on waterfront. And I had a realtor first tell me years ago is they're not making any more of that. So it's something that we need to protect it now from development. It needs to be more than just critical upfront property that's close to the water, but also we purchase those things we need for passive parks, for land use. It's also part of this referendum, the money we spend to purchase land development rights that will keep homeowners from putting on many units on the property. And those are done with the council and also the town of Hilton years ago. We purchased development rights for the Auburn Tract, which took out thousands of homes from being developed right along the critically sensitive neighborhood. So again, it's a combination of things that this money is spent for. And we look at as our savings account for our generations to come, for our kids, putting this land aside. It needs to be smart, as Chris said, and making sure that we are purchasing things that are correct the things we're paying the right price for. But again, it's something that for 100%, and I think that if anything, we should purchase more property in the future.
I fully support the rural and critical lands program. And I don't just support this as one of those issues that I would support. I support this as one of the leading objectives that I would have on the county council is environmental protection. I think it's critical to what we have here. But most of us did not move here for a job. We moved here because this is where we wanted to live. If we wanted to live in a southern climate when we retired, we could move to that planet, right? So it's critical that we protect the beauty of the area that we have. We protect the lands, the green space, and we prevent it from overdevelopment. We prevent it from overdevelopment of housing, overdevelopment of non-green friendly businesses. And so, yes, I would fully support the rural and critical lands objective as a primary objective of my county council.
Our next question. How do you think county council could be more transparent in what they do and improve communication with all county residents?
At the moment, the county channel provides that service for people who wish to watch the deliberations of county council at both the committee level and in the general body meetings. The transparency of that is available by watching these meetings really open your eyes as to the discussions that take place, the give and take of the members of council, and the extraordinary work that's done by all of the committees that provide information to county council for them to make decisions. I think that we could market that better and let people be made more aware of the fact that this service is available. And then, of course, it would be up to the individual members of county council to, in this time of social media, to develop their own ability to deliver information on a regular basis to their constituents through the use of blogging or Facebook pages, or however they wish to let people know what's taking place within their deliberations and within the larger community.
That was well said. I attend the county council meetings. I attend the committee meetings. I intend, once I go on to council, I have a specific phone number set up just for county council business. I have a specific email set up just for county council business. I will set up a specific website so that I can communicate with my constituents, and anybody throughout the county will have access to that information, so we can be as transparent as we possibly can so that we hear everything that you want to say to us and be able to react to that.
I think two keys are, as mentioned, the county channel and the committees. Over time, we've actually moved a lot of the work back from the council level to the committees, and if you watch council, you'll see something we call a consent agenda. We may have 5 or 10 items that we just take in mass because they're not political and therefore we just, or controversial, so we just pass them. And also on the county channel, they take the particular committee meetings and so on, and they run them over and over again, and so you can go and see them, and I guess you can now actually look it up and turn it on any particular one you want to at any point in the past. So we're actually pretty transparent, and by law there's only a couple things that we can do quietly, and those tend to be personnel and contractual and legal issues, which makes sense to do. But I think we're pretty transparent.
So I've read the agendas, the minutes. I've gone to some county council meetings, and those are pretty structured, pretty specific. One of the things that I like to do in business is have information sessions in person. person, where you really talk about kind of the bigger mission and the vision and what are we doing as a county. There's a great strategic plan that I just recently really dived into that Beaufort County does, I think, on a regular basis. Every year they get together and update it. And it's really exciting to read that because I didn't realize until I did all of these things we've talked about today. Those are highlighted as some of them high priority, some of them critical, and they've laid out some steps, things that they're doing now, things that they'll be doing in the future. But to really get out and communicate that to people, I think you have to do it in person, and it's kind of like a presentation. Maybe we do a quarterly. Several or more of us get together and we go out to different places in the community and show them and talk to them. And also making sure that we give the residents an opportunity to give us feedback, not only through online or phone calls, but, do we ever do focus groups? Do we ever do town halls? Things like that, I think would, if we're more accessible, if they know who we are, I think that will give people a better sense of confidence that we are doing the right things for the community.
I think in general at the county level, the county does a pretty good job with the county channel and having all the council meetings recorded and on demand on the website and also the committees as well. If I had to make two recommendations, one would be that the website should be a little easier to use and the video should be up a little bit faster, but honestly that's just me being picky. From a council member perspective, I think the shining example really is Mike Beaufort. He's on Twitter, he's on Facebook, he does a monthly newsletter, he does a quarterly town hall with his constituents. I've been to his town halls and people go and pepper him with questions for as long as he'll stay there. So I would say that's the example that we should probably live up to individually. If not, as a group, maybe, a couple of us could get together and have town halls involved, but that's something that I'm looking forward to implementing when I get on council, is doing the quarterly town halls, doing the monthly newsletter, and then I'm already available on Twitter, Facebook, email, and I'm pretty responsive, so that's something that I would continue.
When I moved here in 1990, I don't think there was a county office south of the bar. That meant that anything you needed, if they half day off of work, drive over 35, 40 minutes and wait in line, and then drive back. So again, you were looking at half a day just to go pay your taxes and do anything you needed to do on a county level. They had a building department in Beaufort was doing that, I remember at that time. So when it comes to the progress we've made, and that being, I think Wesley Newton had a big part of that, and making sure things were transparent, and adding a county channel. So it's something that with new technology today, even old people like me can still get on those things, talk to people. And that's something that people that know me, see me out, see me at places on weekends and festivals and out at football games, basketball games, but also that I'm accessible. That you'll be able to find me, and again, Mike Beaufort is a good example of someone that is out there, willing to answer questions, willing to be the face whenever you need to, know how to find somebody. So it's something that there's always more things we can do, but I think that we've done actually a very good job, and we've made it something that has made it so people now are more apt to pay attention, to actually know what's going on, and have more participation. And that's exactly what we're looking for, is more people participating and being part of what's happening in front of us in this neighborhood.
This question is actually something I've given a lot of thought to before this meeting, is that how do I stay involved with the community after the campaign is over and after I get elected? That we have 5 major communities in my district, as I mentioned earlier: New Riverside, Palmetto Bluff, Old Town Bluff, and College Joy, and DeFusky Island. My intention would be to continue to hold, rather than campaign meetings or meet and greets, would be to have those town halls continue in those districts. I also have an email account. I have a county council campaign Facebook page and website that I would continue to run so that people could have access to me anytime a day, 24/7. And I'm very responsive to people who contact me. So that's what I would want to do is to continue to stay involved with the people who are interested and give them opportunity to talk to me face to face and tell me what they think and what their concerns are.
So I agree with many of the things that have been said, I have watched the county council meetings and committee meetings, and a lot of things are discussed in those meetings. Now, in terms of what I would do, I absolutely believe in the face-to-face contact, and although I have a website, an email address, and a Facebook page, social media is not my strong suit, I admit that. Doesn't mean that I wouldn't be available. My cell phone number is on my materials, and I intend to keep that available for folks to talk to me. But I also would like to have meetings, regular meetings, maybe even more than quarterly, in all of the different sections of the district that I hope to serve. And one of the things we should do is we should make it easy for folks. I mean, we used to talk about team building way to create buy-in. So I would like to hear from people, and this way they don't have to drive all the way to the county for a county council meeting. I can hear what they say, I can consider it, and I can share their views and information with the council myself. So that continuous face-to-face and contact would be something that I would be absolutely do if I were elected.
Thank you.
If elected to county council, what solutions might you consider to address the immediate need for relieving traffic congestion and transportation issues in our area?
Once elected, certainly the referendum for the transportation sales tax will begin the process. We're going to have to take a look at every aspect of transportation that we have. As I said before, the sales tax is going to be for specific projects, but we also need our fair share county-wide because the South Carolina DOT, they do the work of maintaining our roads. And if we do not get our fair share of funds, the roads are going to be maintained elsewhere. If we do not get our fair share of the capital money for transportation, we're not going to be able to improve them. So it's going to be an ongoing thing that we have to do, but it is going to start with the referendum.
I think there's a couple things relative to the short term with the traffic. Fairly recently, SCDOT sent some consultants in, which they do regularly, and looked at the timing of the signals. And they finished that. We'll get some evaluations in the near future about that. Secondly, the technology is getting very smart at this point in time, to the point that we're getting to where they call adaptive intersections. So you're literally having a computer monitoring the traffic and setting the green to maximize the traffic going through. So I think that's the next one that we'll see. And physically, some of us believe, and we'll probably take a look at it the next couple of months, that the short-term bottleneck is at Squire Pope. And that there's probably, by adding 500 to 1,000 feet as a third lane on the mainland side of that intersection, may go a long way to help short-term, but we'll see. But it is being worked, and it is a problem.
So when we talk in terms of immediate things like the traffic study, traffic patterns, definitely when are those peak times that people are coming on and off the island, when do we see the bottlenecks? I agree, I come down the Square Cove, that's my in and out home, and it does tend to back up. Those are things I think that we can do short term. Other things really are relying on the bridge, but I think, can we also look at when our employers have their start and stop times? I know some of that is predicated on public transportation, but sometimes just adjusting starting times can make a big difference. I worked with facility that was near Gulfstream in Pooler. And we did an adjustment to our shift schedules because of the traffic that was involved with Gulfstream. And it made a difference for our employees. They were able to get in and out of work just by changing their start times by 15 minutes. So some of that information I think will come from traffic. We've had a traffic study recently, but we definitely can do some things short term.
I think in the immediate term, the referendum is a good start to start fixing some of the problems that we have, especially south of the Broad. From an SCDOT perspective, I know that that's been a challenge for council for quite some time. And I think really what we can do is just continue to push them so that we get the resources that we need. Now, the third thing I would say is probably proper planning. Issues happen when you get pockets of concentrated development, like we see all along 278. That's a major source of congestion in the county. So proper planning, planning where the congestion is going to be, planning where the development is going to be, taking into consideration what resources are going to be needed there. I think those are all good starts.
Immediately, the advice I would give would be to not go off the island on Saturdays at 10 a.m. and not try to come back on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. However, that's something that we've seen struggles with over many, many years now, knowing that the traffic has changed and widened 278 to 3 lanes, and doing things that as mentioned, changing the lights and having the lights change and keeping them open then during those high traffic times. So it's something that, as I mentioned earlier, infrastructure is going to be our most important thing, not now, but in 5 years, in 10 years. We start planning for those, what's happening 10 years from now, and decide what we've got to do so that we're not sitting here in a gridlock later on. It's something that when you see the traffic, it's only going to get worse, and more people are coming. So again, we're not going to stop it. However, there are a lot of things we can do, as was mentioned with this referendum, and making sure that we are planning ahead. The biggest thing that we're looking at in the near future would be the Highway 170 that you've got going towards Savannah after the bridge is underway. That's something that 2 lanes coming from Savannah that's going to have to be looked at. But again, that's a 5-year plan. That's a 10-year plan. So the only else immediately would be to stay away from downtown Bluffton on Thursday for the farmers market and go around that area. Exactly.
I, of course, would be for the referendum as we spoke about earlier, but when I think about traffic flow, I think specifically of my district, District 9. I live in the New Riverside area, and what we have going on there is we already have too many houses for the amount of businesses that are there available locally. And so, and it's a housing boom. They're just going up left and right. So what I would promote and advocate for is slowing down the housing if we possibly could. I know that's something that's hard to do, but I would like to promote the development of business in that area to where you maybe reduce or eliminate impact fees for specific types of businesses. For example, a grocery store or doctor's offices or some sort of retail stores. And there is space in that available in that area. I'm not sure how it's done, but we could do it. That would reduce the traffic for that area. And also, we might have to do a widening project of Highway 46, May River Road, as it goes into Bluffton, as was done on 170 a couple years back. The biggest problems we have with traffic, as I see it, is the east-west corridors. We have May River Road, we have Bluffton Parkway, and we have Highway 278. And we've done some work on 278. We've done some work with Bluffton Parkway, but we have to do something with May River Road. We have to do something with promoting business toward that housing.
So I love the idea of staggered work hours. When I was traveling to New York on a train years ago, they used to have this poster, these people all crunched together, and it said, stagger our work hours before they stagger us. And I never forgot that. Another thing that I think would be really good to do is give employer incentives for van pools, encouraging ride together, and also giving people some incentives for public transportation. The other thing I think is important is public-private partnerships. I think that we could purchase a trolley, with public-private money, and have a parking ride, maybe it doesn't have national, so that people can park there and take the trolley on the island, all parts of the island, so we have a comprehensive trolley system. I think we should really leverage some of that public money to purchase some of these things and get things moving quickly, because I really do believe that, we can build a strong public transportation system with not only the public money, but by getting, the help of our private funds.
You probably have come to the conclusion by now that everybody up there agrees with everybody else. Here's our reality, folks. In the 1970s, there were 5,000 people living on Hilton Head. Now it's about 40 to 45,000. 2010 census showed us we had 165,000 people in the county. The 2020 census showed probably close to 220,000. Our visitors go from 2.2 million up to close to almost 3 million during our summer vacation. And here's the other reality. Even if we pass that referendum, it's going to take 6 to 8 years to fix that bridge and fix these roads. 6 to 8 years. I hope you're all willing to wait, because that's how long it's going to take us. So what do we do in the short term? There are things other communities do who have terrible traffic, and it works for them. Ever been on the Long Island Expressway during rush hour? You know what they can do here to get traffic into Manhattan and get the traffic out at night? They have reverse lanes. They have additional lanes. They have coordinated traffic lights. We should have off-island parking. We should have improved public transportation. We should have better intra-island transport. And we should consider asking our employers to perform van pools so they can bring their employees in here. But we have to do that now. We can't wait 6 to 8 years for the bridge to be fixed. We have to do that now.
I think we've covered the waterfront. This will be our final question. We'll make it quick. What plans might you have to enhance economic growth in a more diverse fashion than the traditional service industry? And Mr. Rodman, I think we have one question.
About 2 years ago, we set up an economic development corporation for the county. It is part of a larger regional alliance that focuses on economic development, and that's the way it is done in the state, and that sets up the mechanism for businesses to be introduced to us. County's big. Different parts of the county need different things, but I think you're going to see that mechanism start to work and start to see many companies that would be very friendly to what we want start to come here, and I think that's really the key to it as we go forward. It's something that we did not do very well the last 10 years. We had 2 false starts, and then we didn't do anything for a while, but I think perhaps we're on the right track now, and the state's very happy with the way that we've done this, and they're starting to push to send us the kind of businesses that probably want to locate with us here.
As we look to diversify our economic climates, right now we're very dependent on tourism, and we bring in other industries and we find those types of businesses, technology that will be low impact on our environment. Many of those companies will be saying, do you have a workforce for me? Are there places for my workforce to live? So all of it's intertwined. Do we have the right skills, or as we bring businesses in, we need to ensure that we're working closely with our technical colleges, our university, to ensure that the right training will be there, and we need to make sure that we do have the housing for all levels of employees that will come in with those businesses. But I firmly think that will ensure our sustainability if we're able to diversify our economic base and not just rely so much on tourism as we do today.
So a couple of things. I think the steps have been taken to join the Southern Alliance as far as a regional economic development corporation. I think that's positive, and that will education. We need to make sure that our education system in the county is strong. Again, we're on the county council, not on the board of education, so there's not too much we can do there except for asking hard questions about whether or not their budget is actually serving the children appropriately. And then the final thing I'll say is, actually Mark and I attended an economic development seminar a couple months ago, I guess it was. And one of the things that they noted was when you try to attract these bigger corporations as employers, what you have to do is differentiate yourself. You can't bring in employers and say, oh, look, we have a beach. It's not going to sell that. One asset that we do have is we have a strong military presence. That's something that those employers look for because that means we have a highly skilled workforce. But we need to go further. We need to sit down collectively, put our heads together and say, how can we differentiate ourselves as a county to make it an attractive place for you to bring your business? And we need to make it an environment where it's easy to do business.
Obviously, we know that the port is coming, and there's been lots of jobs that come along with that port. So being prepared for that, not only just for the blue-collar jobs that come along with it, but also the white-collar jobs, which is what we want. We want more white-collar jobs that are high-paying, that give a good salary, that people can live in our community, and be part of our community. So that's the main thing that we want to look at is bringing in the right job, not just any job. One of the biggest resources that Hilton Head, as well as Beaufort, has is the fact that it's you as people that have moved here. A lot of people that have moved here actually have owned a business or come from a corporation. We will be convincing some of those folks that have just moved here to bring their business here, that moved here full-time or moved here as a part-time, but to bring some of those white-collar workers and move their operations here through incentives. We're working with the Alliance to bring them here and bring them here, knowing that that's going to be the jobs that people want that we've got in the area. So education, looking at trying to bring in the right kind of jobs that are high-paying and not just any kind of jobs is going to be the key for us to grow and make sure that we're providing the quality of life that we want. Again, we're not taking everything we just talked about, the traffic, not having more traffic, not overcrowding our schools, and those things, when we start talking about bringing folks in, we want to bring the right person.
This is actually another one of the pillars of my platform, is bringing in quality jobs and higher wages for people so that they can afford to live. It has to start with education. I think we can work with our high schools to have vocational programs. I think we can work with TCL and maybe USCB to bring in the kind of educational degrees that will go for technical jobs. Not everybody is meant to be a white-collar worker. There's good, honorable work in being a blue-collar worker. I come from a blue-collar background, and I can tell you that there are a lot of good people who work blue-collar jobs. So that would be one of my primary objectives. To bring in industry, I would advocate for reducing impact fees or even eliminating impact fees to influence an industry to come here. And I would also be for tax incentives, because what happens when you reduce taxes on an industry is that they come here, and then there are jobs, and then the people pay taxes. You don't lose money when you reduce impact fees and reduce taxes for a business. It promotes job growth, better wages, and the whole economy does better when you have good quality jobs in the area.
So as everyone said, we need to do something other than tourism, because one big storm could, wipe us out for a long time, and we might not have any money coming into the island because we rely on it so heavily. So I do think we need to be a historical destination. I think we need to work on projects like Mitchellville, and it's really a beautiful American story that needs to be told. So I really think it's important to try to make this, leverage all this wonderful history that we have on the island, make it a historical destination as well as people just coming into the beach. I think the chamber, I understand that the chamber usually promotes tourism in the summer. So the chamber should be promoting tourism in the winter, some types of tourism in the winter, other things that they can come for in the winter, not just the beaches, the golf, the things that we have available on the island, and again, the historical significance of the island. I think think that it's, obviously we're going to need some affordable housing if we're going to keep skilled workers. And the skilled workers, we're talking about teachers and healthcare workers. And I know that John O'Toole, the Economic Development Director of the county, is looking at green-friendly businesses to bring them here to a corridor of opportunity in Beach City Road. So he's looking at that too. So I think there's a lot of things we can do, and I would be in favor of all of them if I were elected to the county.
I think as everyone continues to talk here, it becomes very clear that everything we've been talking about is connected to everything else. This search for businesses is pretty much like the search that has to be conducted for the county administrator. I applaud the affiliation with the Southern Economic Alliance. I think it's a good thing. I think what we need to do, just as we will have to conduct our search for the county administrators, we have to conduct a search and determine what kind of businesses we want to have here. And then what we have to do is we have to incentivize these businesses in a variety of ways to get them to come here. And then it's connected to our ability to improve traffic, to provide housing, and to engage in significant workforce development. All of this is tied together. It's not something that can be isolated. Just like residences and commercial and public and open lands, it's all connected. You can't isolate anything. Everything is dependent on everything else falling into place.
As it was said, everything is tied together. In order to have economic development, you have to have businesses. In order to attract those businesses, you have to have highly qualified, highly educated workforce. In order to have that workforce, you have to have quality education programs, not only at the secondary level, but as you go forward in the 2-year level and the 4-year level. Not everybody needs or can afford to go to a 4-year college. They do need quality jobs, and we can have that as long as we have the programs available to them to get those higher paying jobs.
We'll begin closing statements, 1 minute or less, and we begin in reverse order from the intro. District 10, Ms. McCall.
Oh, do you want me to go first? Oh, sorry. Okay. Oh, I got it. I got it now.
Reverse order. All right. So one of the things I think you've probably seen is that we agree on a lot of things. And, I definitely agree that we need to protect the environment. But in order to get any of these things done, we need to work together as a team. So my skills as a mediator, facilitator, and a team builder, and a conflict coach, and all those skills that I bring to the table will really help me to be an effective member of the council, because I will be able to come up with, I will be able to collaborate and come up with innovative solutions to these complex problems and help move them forward. Because I can work in groups, I can work in teams, and I know how to be someone who can work together with people of all different backgrounds. District 6, Mr. Pressman. Next.
As you can see, there's a lot of bright people in this room. And as I sit here and I listen to all of them, I feel like a pair of brown shoes in the tuxedo world. 4 of the people here will be brand new to the council, bringing new ideas. It's a wonderful thing. I really look forward to working with these people for the betterment of everybody who lives and works in Beaufort County. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Herbershon, your closing comments. District 8.
Thank you. So this has been a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. So thank you to the League and the voters for having us. Thank you all for coming out. Hopefully you've seen tonight that I do have some conservative principles, and hopefully that resonates, and hopefully I can count on your vote in November. One thing I will add is, like I said in my opening, I think financial background has been sorely underrepresented on county council for quite some time. I've got 10 years of experience in corporate and corporate accounting and finance, 4 more years experience in forensic accounting. I've got my own business, CPA firm, I just opened a couple months ago. I've got kids in the schools, I've got serious skin in the game in Beaufort County. And so hopefully you'll take all that into account and I can count your vote.
Linda Brandt, District 8.
So I am just so thrilled that we have this many passionate people who want to run for local office and make a difference for Beaufort County. I have voted here and have not had a choice before. One of the reasons that I decided to run was to give everybody a choice. But we have so many commonalities, whether you're conservative or progressive. There's, I think, a common interest in making sure that we are all here to do the right thing for Beaufort County. I bring kind of a visioning, maybe a little bit of a dreamer perspective to things. I have worked with many accountants. I had to report to several CFOs, but I've been able to translate to them that at the end of the day, it's all about people. How do people feel? How are people, do they feel they can grow? Do they feel enthused and engaged? And all the money and budgets in the world won't do that. So I think I could bring that perspective. How do we always consider the people angle in whenever we're doing things as a county council? Again, thank you guys so much for being here, and it was wonderful, and thank you guys for all your nice ideas that I have.
Mr. Rodman, District 11.
When we have these kind of sessions, sometimes, we talk about what are the problems we need to solve. And we sometimes miss the fact that this is one of the greatest places in the country to live. Quality of life, the people who come here, the natural environment. And and that's what attracts a lot of people to come here. And because of that, we've got to be very smart about how we do the growth. I'm very optimistic that we will work through all of those things. Because I think we have the human resources to make that happen. But I think that's, to me, it's a great place to live, and that's the issue we have in front of us, is smart growth.
Mark Lorca, District 9.
Again, thank you for having me tonight. I enjoyed it. I was a little afraid to come after watching that mayor debate over Indigo Run a couple of weeks back, and sure we saw what happened there. But no, I've enjoyed it. The one thing that I do want to say is for us to know where we're going, which is a little cliche, we have to know the past. And that's something for us here. We have to know where we're going. We have to make decisions that are smart. For me, being here as long as I had kids in school, and been part of what's happening, seeing what's gone on, knowing where we need to go, and what I'd like to see for the future. I mean, I want us to, preserve our quality of life, which that includes, the police, the great hospitals we have, the restaurants that we've got. Those are things that we need to preserve. We need to protect our environment. And most of all, we need to make good, smart, common sense decisions that's going to affect what happens in the future, and do it in such a way that it's something that we're proud of. And again, I appreciate your vote coming up in November.
Mr. McMillan,
Okay.
next.
Yeah, this is not going to be easy for the voters. Everybody's pretty much in agreement on the major issues. I think what you have to do is you have an obligation to drill down a little bit here and ask yourself what people have done here in this community before they've decided to stand for election. I think you have to look at their commitment to service and to see how they spent their time here and what good they've done for us. I think you also need to evaluate their work experience and find out what it is they've done. I have 40 years of experience with people, programs, and budgets. I was the chief judge of the magistrate court for 10 years. I know how to run things, and I think that I would bring a very good presence to the council, and that I would represent you all very well, and I'd be happy to be your voice on county council. Thank you very much.
Our final candidate's comments this evening, Mr. McGinnis, District 9.
I would also like to thank you. It's really an honor to be here, to have the opportunity to be a candidate and to serve you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, and thank you to everybody for being here. And As I said earlier, I've committed my life to service, to serving others in my church, in my community, and in the military. I actually was out of the military and went back in so that I could go to Afghanistan in 2003. That's my commitment to service. I've had success in my career. I work for one of the finest aviation aerospace companies in the world, Gulfstream Aerospace. I've become an engineering group head. That's not easy to do. It shows that I've had hard work ethic and have ability to do that. And we have to be intentional with our seeing forward and planning ahead for the things that we're going to affect and change in this county. And I have that ability as a team member and a team leader in my career. I've shown that I have that ability, and I appreciate your vote, member. Thanks.
I want to thank our audience this evening for your interest and for your questions. Will you now join me in a round of applause for our We would also like to acknowledge All Saints Church for the venue provided for us this evening. We appreciate the live broadcast and taping by the county channel, which greatly increases the viewing opportunities for all of our voters. Please remember to use vote411.org to view your personal ballot as you prepare to vote, and also to be able to note the dates of future league forums. There will be a forum for school board, for Town of Hilton Head County Council, and Town of Hilton Head Mayor, and possibly for our state representatives, which was canceled as a result of the hurricane last week. And most importantly, support the candidates and the referendums of your choice on November 6th. Thank you for being here.